So we've already seen some of these slides, so I'll go through them quickly, but I think that they really set the stage nicely for this topic of design and development as a service. At the center of all of our work, we have our processes, and then we have 4 basic domains that impact these processes. You have the people that are actually doing the work, the systems, whether they're ERP systems or control systems, software that facilitate and monitor the processes. And then we have the information that comes not only from the systems, but also from the people. And then things, or what some of us have called Internet of Things, and this is pretty much anything else that can impact the processes. And all 4 of these domains have a big impact on the processes. We've seen this slide too, and it directly correlates to the previous slide. All of these technologies have an impact on design and engineering services, but the 2 that I wanted to focus on are the collaboration or social piece and the cloud piece. Now, the collaboration piece, it provides us with a new vehicle for communication beyond just email and telephone. It allows us access to domain expertise across the world, as well as allowing our teams to collaborate effectively and efficiently. Now, the cloud allows our systems, non-mission critical systems, to have an expanded reach, and they provide us a lower cost alternative to actually physically hosting those systems and software. And it's easily expandable as your need for storage increases. Now, we're really just learning how to utilize these social tools that are out there. And we're seeing a big shift in just sharing data to actually sharing knowledge. And that's an important shift, especially as we see a lot of people retiring. Knowledge is starting to disappear, and we need to capture the knowledge that's stored in our knowledge workers' heads and actually implement that and document that within our processes. And manufacturers are slowly adopting a lot of these tools. We see apps, they're typically proprietary. We're seeing them more and more as mobile devices are becoming more common on the plant floor. Communities like LinkedIn allow people from all over the world to actually talk about their interest and have a forum discussion on those common interests. And then, portal technologies like SharePoint, which are allowing companies to easily share and store documents in an easily accessible and fairly secure manner. And then the last piece of collaboration, it really allows us to start to effectively bring together all the different disciplines that are required in the design process. And that ultimately speeds up that design process and speeds up time to market. Now, the basic model of all manufacturing is this design, make, deliver model at its very center. Manufacturing today is highly distributive and collaborative, and manufacturers are relying more and more on external resources. So we need to integrate this design, make, deliver model completely from end to end. And manufacturers are moving more towards expanded value networks to span all the disciplines. Like I said before, the design, make, deliver model has to be tightly coupled and work together to drive peak performance. Design's not only about the product. There are questions like, can we actually produce this product in our current facilities? If not, what do we have to do to modify the facilities? Can it be manufactured economically and cost effectively? Is the product going to be saleable, and will it be serviceable in the future? The questions go on, and often it goes beyond the scope of what internal resources can handle. So this collaborative value network needs to expand to fill in the gaps where necessary. When we take a look at the business challenges, we're moving more and more towards a truly global market. Competition is increasing from all areas. Customers are demanding many more choices, feature-rich, robust products. There's many variations, and all of this needs to be considered, and the manufacturer needs to maintain high quality, all while worrying about the constant pressure of having faster time to market. Across the board, costs are increasing pretty much everywhere you look: energy, natural resources, labor. Margins are shrinking. And to add to the complexity, when we take a look at regulatory concerns, manufacturers have to comply to those local regulations and standards across the board. The product life cycle is getting pretty short, and the product life cycle is tightly tied to the production systems, and they obviously have a great impact on those production systems. New releases and upgrades often require modifications to those systems, so those have to be planned out pretty effectively to make sure that there aren't any delays. And problems show up later on in the design process or the manufacturing process can cause further delays. And oftentimes manufacturers don't have the tight integration of their design-make-deliver model that can avoid those delays. And if we take a look at some of the development challenges, one of the biggest problems is the simple fact that products are mechatronics in nature. Design teams need to not only have mechanical and electrical engineering expertise, but they also have to have knowledge of control systems, manufacturing processes, or any other discipline or engineering aspect that can impact the manufacturing processes. And then, we also have labor concerns. When you're looking at bringing in a group of people that have all that skill set, it can be quite costly. And, as I mentioned before, we're moving towards an era where we're going to see massive retirement rates and the knowledge drain that's going to result from that. And you couple that with the lack of qualified talent that we're already seeing and we've heard about this week. Finding that talent and acquiring it is becoming increasingly more difficult. Another challenge is that manufacturers are always struggling with when they should release a new product or release an upgrade. Oftentimes that depends on the staff that they have in-house or within their network. So to further those releases, they need to expand their networks. And oftentimes a release is in direct response to a competitor's release. You can look at the tech market and you see products out there, smartphones, tablets, or e-readers that often lack the robustness or that certain feature or something just doesn't work right. And that's what happens when we're responding rather than being proactive and putting out the releases on our own time in the proper manner that they should be. And again, design's not just about the product. We have to design for a multitude of purposes, all for the combination of one purpose, which is to design a saleable product. So if we take a look at design and development as a service, when you're working with a service provider, they already have their teams in place and they act as an extension of your in-house resources. And they also have processes and best practices in place to help you. They focus on innovation and value creation to consistently refine those processes and best practices. And they also bring in domain and IT expertise as well as other value-add services. And often the result can be faster time to market and improved quality. and they also can bring resources or global resources that otherwise wouldn't be available to a manufacturer. And there's also this component of risk sharing. When you're outsourcing something, you're ultimately shifting a responsibility onto the service provider. It's not that they take on the risk, but they actually have the expertise to better plan risk mitigating factors. And these are just a couple of brief cases that were provided to us by TCS. The first one here is the design of a fuselage bay for an unmanned aircraft. And as you can see, they not only did the design of the component, they also did some analysis and validation of that design as well. And the other one here on the right is a full vehicle development from the complete model design through interior and exterior trim, and they also added the cost, quality, performance, and timing aspects of it as well. So some thoughts to consider when working with a service provider. It's important that you have the utmost trust in your provider as you partner with them in the design process and beyond. Anytime you outsource something, you always have the potential to reveal confidential or sensitive information, but there has to be an openness on both sides so that you can share information and make sure that your business and manufacturing products are considered throughout the design process. Another thing to consider is how your IP is protected. This is something that needs to be discussed up front because maybe you have a different idea of how to protect it than your service provider does, or vice versa. So that needs to be discussed up front. And then communication. Oftentimes communication can be overlooked. But if you set expectations up front, you're able to provide for a better relationship between the two parties involved. Some other things, scheduling and planning needs to be talked about to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and also synchronizing deliverables. Deliverables from in-house resources as well as external resources need to be coordinated to reduce the design cycle. In closing, having a well-thought-out strategy in place with expectations clearly defined and agreed upon upfront is key, and mutual trust between the both parties will drive success. Thank you.